My black.
What's up, my
We
brother?
got. I'm so good, man. We were just talking before we got on about the pleasure of internet. In other
Mm,
countries they have spotty internet.
right,
We over here like, oh, it's not working like it's
right.
supposed to.
So slow, my God.
But now I get to go on. Now I get to go on here and complain about T-Mobile's Wi-Fi. It was trash, bruh, trash,
You're like, as Barkley say, terrible, terrible,
horrible. It was
terrible.
horrible.
You're like,
And it was a good idea,
it
and
was a
basically all
great
it
idea.
is, for those who don't know, the T-Mobile, the difference is they basically provide you a little tower in your house. So it's
Mm-hmm,
still a cellular service. It's
mm-hmm,
just you have a tower that makes supposed to make it stronger. The problem was that the signal, at least in my location, maybe not in others. My location, it was spotty. We couldn't even do the show last week because it kept on coming on and off. It was unreliable. And
unreliable.
so I went back to AT&T. I was like, I didn't go back groveling. I went with pride.
Right.
Pride. I said, Nick Rose, give me a deal. I need
Break,
a
cut a brother a
deal.
break. I need a deal to come back. I know
And
I'm
they gave me
4 days.
they gave me a better deal than the one I had when I was leaving.
Oh man,
So,
see,
which was half. It was
the
actually
don't
about
let me
half
call
of what I was
AT&T
paying
after
before.
the show was over, being like, "Yo, you gave my man's a good deal. I need a discount."
Hey, I may have told you about how I like to go around and get the black man's discount.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't told you about that.
Uh-uh. I'm like,
No, I haven't done it more recently because of the political climate we're in. I won't start no fights. But I've had a number of people who do not believe me, and
mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay, now that's a challenge. And so I was
Right.
out with this friend of mine,
Mm-hmm.
Melissa,
Mm-hmm.
and we're walking downtown, just hanging out,
Right.
and we're passing this. It wasn't a wine; it was like a bourbon festival of some
Oh,
sort.
nice. Okay.
So now it's bourbon, so the tickets are pricey. They're like
Yep.
maybe $100,
Yeah.
right?
Oh. Okay.
So we go up to
Real.
the front, and they tell us how much they cost. I'm like, well, hell no, I ain't
Right.
paying
They
a
ain't
hundred
paying that.
dollars. Nah.
Right.
And she looked at me and she's just like about to walk away. I said, remember when we talked about the black men's discount? She goes, yeah, that silly thing you talking about. I'm like,
Right.
mm-hmm. I said, excuse me, do y'all have a black man's discount? I had to deliver it with confidence, like
You
it's a
do.
real thing.
Right.
I
Right.
said, excuse me, do you have
Excuse
a black man's discount?
me. Excuse me, sir.
And it was a sister. She goes, it's funny you ask because we just got a call from a person who has two tickets who said they can't come and they would prefer that they gave the tickets away to someone else.
What?
Black man's discount.
Black man's discount.
So it's all about delivery. Now I've
What?
had a few
So
folks
what you
say,
got?
"Can I ask for a white man's discount?" I like no.
No, that's
This
not.
is
No.
reparations. Reparations.
That was funny. It's just reparation. I do like that. That was on point. Yeah, like one for KP. You're like, yeah.
I'm just saying, if you want to try, anyone out there from the diaspora
Guys, you
who
want to
wants
give
to
it
try
a
the
try?
black man's discount or black woman's discount, I'm
You
pretty sure it
know,
worked.
you know.
If you're asking how often has it worked, I would say I have a 1 out of 7 success
That,
rate.
that's
That's
not.
pretty good.
I mean, my math ain't that good. So what? But I mean, what's that? 20%?
I mean, bruh, what they gonna
Well,
say?
it's
No.
anything better than zero,
I
right?
mean,
Is a winning record as far as I'm concerned.
I've got upgraded seats in the airline.
Nice.
I've gotten free parking for my car that was at the airport for a
Oh,
week,
wow.
free.
Free.
I got drinks, food, and I was like, excuse me,
Right.
do you have a black man's discount?
These people are like, what the fuck? It's like, and you're kind of in a quandary, right? Because you can't really be like, oh, hell no. You're like, sir, that is not fair. No, we don't. Because you're kind of scared. Because it's like, because what is he gonna say next, right? If you say no, he gonna like, y'all racist or some shit like that.
Racist.
Like,
This is a
so you
racist.
like, well, I could give you 5% off. I could do something. I was like, yeah, you need to help a brother out.
Hey,
Like,
whatever you give the veterans and elderly people, whatever, I'm okay with that.
I'm with it. I'm with it. I need my black man discount. I need to.
I'm gonna start a new program.
Don't,
Go from
I'm mad. I'm mad.
restaurant to
Every time
restaurant.
I go into the car dealership, and I got like the one brother who always serves me. I kind of wait for him because he cool like that. Well, Lawrence, I think I can get you 25% off. And I'm like, and this is so classic because man's name is Sylvester.
Sylvester.
You can't be blacker than Sylvester. I said, well, thank you, Sylvester. I appreciate it. He's like, I got you. He's like, you just wait around a couple minutes. He's like, I got you. I'm like, okay. I'm like, but could you give me that 5 rating on the feedback thing? I'm like, bro, as long as you keep giving me 25% off, you're going to get a 5 all day, all night. I'm like, he's really kind and considerate. Yeah. Takes good care of you and your car. But I was like,
there you go. Can I give you a 6?
Look, I try to get it anytime I can, man.
Well, hey, we got a good set of topics. We're actually going to continue with the topics that we had last time, this time, because they're still relevant. So our side eye, just so folks know what it is, it's going to be at the end, but I want to tell you what it is now. Our side eye is about the whole Scott Pelley CBS situation and all that huge fiasco. Last week, he had just called him out in a meeting. This week, he got fired and went on New York Times and talked about his experience. So I think that'll be a good conversation.
Yep.
Next, we got Wembanyama being criticized by old heads from the NBA, particularly Garnett, for being too emotional. Now, this is an important conversation because last night San Antonio got their ass beat at the last minute after being 29 points ahead, and I got all kinds of feelings about that.
Massive choke job.
But we're going to talk about the emotional expression that folks seem to be critical of. Then we got Graham Paltner. He is now, last week he was just a candidate, presumed to be the Democratic senatorial candidate. Now he's actually won that seat, but still in the thick of the criticism that he's experienced because he never said he was a devout like white supremacist, but he had tattoos that signified that. He did some really sexist, misogynist kinds of things. He was a heavy drinker, and he's like, I've been a bad boy. Mm-hmm. Can you forgive me? And some folks still have questions about that, but he is the candidate now. Mm-hmm. And then lastly, we got Bill Pulte, who is a billionaire housing development guy who basically has been appointed the director of national intelligence. And the part of the reason we're bringing him up for conversation is because this fool has no experience in national intelligence. I mean, we're not talking about we're even talking about like IQs. Right. We're talking about espionage, right, relationships with other countries and all kinds of stuff. And apparently he's not going to be the permanent. He's just supposed to be the intern. But the point, he's in the position at all. At all. But the real conversation is, what's more important, loyalty or expertise? Mm-hmm. So we'll talk about that. But before we get to that, I want to get to our first djembe card. This is traditionally we start off with a card. This one's going to be our grounding card. Our grounding card here, and the one for today is feelings that I often develop when talking about DEI or diversity, equity, inclusion are blank and blank. Feelings specifically. Another card will say actions. What are some feelings?
Yeah.
You want to go first?
Sure. Sadness. Is despondence a feeling?
Say again?
Despondence. Is that a feeling?
I think so. Okay. I think it's
despondence.
That's a GRE word. So
I'm telling you, right? Exactly. And man, most of it's negative fear, I think, is the other one.
Yeah. You want to say more?
Yeah, I mean, the despondence is like, and God knows with the Pulte stuff, watching a world in which civil rights legislation is being dismantled, voting rights legislation is being dismantled, Black folk, in the military who clearly have risen the ranks in the military are being pushed aside, as well as women, for jobs that they are clearly qualified for. there's a despondence with that, just kind of be like, oh, and I don't know if you saw this. Friend of mine told me this yesterday. Somebody came and put burned a cross in Grant Park in Chicago yesterday or 2 days ago.
Uh,
Yeah, that shit was crazy. I missed it.
right.
I don't really watch the local news, but if someone was telling me about it and I saw it, I happened to see it last night, and I'm like, and I mentioned it because that's where some of the DEI fear comes from. I'm like, people are feeling so emboldened that it just feels like, are we heading into this territory that feels very unsafe? And what craziness is coming next? You know.
Yeah.
But what about you?
Well, you know that last word you use, unsafe, is definitely something that comes up for me because I worry about my kids, my son,
Mm-hmm.
my daughter, but my friends. I was talking to a colleague, a former colleague of mine, who's a friend, who's deep, 10 toes deep, as they say, in the work, and he's worried, and we looking over his shoulder and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll be honest, the other feeling is I still get excitement because there have been some opportunities. I told you about our Plates and Perspectives event
Yeah.
we
Oh,
had a
wow.
few weeks ago. Actually, I actually am working with 4 nonprofits here locally. We submitted a grant application for a project around resident leadership
Nice.
and using Djembe as part of the tool as a kind of a, a tool to really support their
Mm-hmm.
work around belonging,
Yeah.
inclusion, and as a methodology, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I get excited about those things because I feel like the potential is so much there.
Mm-hmm.
And people, I mean, I was actually having a conversation with a woman I want to collaborate with. She's a event organizer, planner, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
And I was asking about just her experience with the Plates and Perspective. And she was just so positive. She's like, I sat in a room with a bunch of people I didn't know from all the walks of life, black, brown, white, old white people, young black folks. I mean, all kinds of folks, Latinos, Asians, and had this really powerful experience of getting to know people, checking my assumptions, learning and listening. And she just had such a positiveness in her
Mm-hmm.
voice about this
Yeah.
experience. And so I was excited, one, to work, try to figure out how we're going to work
That's dope.
together in general, but just it's still there. So
Yeah.
despite
I hear you.
everything we're talking about, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's these opportunities out there that I think are still there despite the rhetoric and the nonsense and the lies that people tell.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to hone into that, like
Yeah.
grab onto that. I'll
Mm.
be honest, some days I don't know, bro. I don't know.
No, no, but I actually thank you for sharing that because I really appreciate that. Despite whatever fears, you're still leaning in to try to make a difference, and I think the truth is the only way we're really going to get change, or the change that we want, is to continue to lean in, to fight, to create the opportunities for change that we want to see happen. Right? I mean, we can't sit back and wait for others. It reminds me, you and I have talked offline about the NAACP, request for the boycott of
Mm-hmm.
athletes, and I have very mixed feelings about it. But I think when you and I talked about it previously, one aspect of it was, and what else? You're like, okay, we're putting this weight on young athletes, but what are the rest of us doing?
Mm-hmm.
And I think some of what you're talking about in terms of like, um, Plates and Perspectives and
Mm-hmm.
doing, I think that's clearly your way of doing something to create change and momentum. And I think, I've got to think more about that for myself. Like, what does that look like? What am I going to be doing versus kind of maybe taking a more passive approach?
Well, and I mean, I'll be honest. There's many days I felt that way, and I think sometimes I'm just too hard headed, or I feel like I have no other choice. I
Probably a
remember
little bit
when
of both, right?
right. I was like, if I don't do something, I'm gonna be messed up. So,
It's interesting, and I don't know if you would mind sharing this kind of the emotional charge that comes with maybe doing something more proactive. I would think is not just exciting, but probably maybe it lifts a burden, but it just kind of it buoys you in some kind of way emotionally. So there's something also about, I think, in being proactive and taking action that in and of itself creates a positive kind of emotional charge as well.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because if you have to rely on your own kind of circumstances, I mean, there's plenty to find and look for. I mean, I got beautiful children, great friendships, blah blah blah. Businesses, more to be done, but it's coming along. But I'll be honest, it's the conversations I have with other people and the stories they tell and the positive experiences they share.
Yeah.
That gets me just like, I'm like over the moon.
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes a difference, because I'll be honest, the whole goal of white supremacy and all the things that we spend a lot of time on is to make you feel isolated and powerless and unable to do anything, right? And which feels terrible. And I don't like feeling terrible. So,
no, you and me both. Look,
so they can kick rocks on that, bro.
Right next to this table, because I'm like, I don't want that.
Well, let's do our first topic. I feel like the one we should start with is Wembanyama, because now for y'all who don't remember, I'm in Austin. We just down the street from San Antonio, and all you hear all day is "Go Spurs, go Spurs,
go Spurs, go."
Yeah, so we are down for the Spurs. Now I'm mixed, not in the sense of like racial background or anything.
I was like, really? I thought she was black.
But my ex is from the Bronx, so she's a big time Knicks fan.
Okay.
But I call the Knicks the Cowboys of the North, because they haven't been to the championship since '99.
Right.
It's 2006. And they haven't won a championship since 1974,
73,
something like that. So I'm like, they just like the Cowboys.
Teams of all time, by the way, but
whole lot of hope and not a lot of follow through.
However,
they are a very good team. They're a very good team,
They I mean, I'm just gonna say this. This is gonna be like the most disappointing championship team to win, probably since like the Lakers in COVID. You know what I mean? It's like y'all don't deserve no championship.
Wow.
I'm like, come on, man.
Wait, because it's not Chicago? What's up?
No. The Bulls suck, man. I'm like, after Mike left, I was done with the Bulls. I was like, come on, man, y'all stink. No, the Spurs didn't give it away. Like, the Spurs have given away 3 games.
Yes, they have.
This series should be over, because they have gacked their way through to figuring out how to lose 3 games. I mean, last game 2, ain't no way they should have lost either one of them games.
Yeah. I mean, they start off strong. 3 points.
Every game.
And then they just can't hit anything.
No. Well, that's because, you know what? When you're up by 20, maybe you should stop chucking threes.
Just a thought. I mean, that's all I heard amongst my little crew of friends. They're like, why are we... One, it's the issue of time, right? You're going too quick, and so you're leaving too much time on the clock. And 2, you're not hitting them. So just go for the shots you can hit.
Right. Could you drive... And by the way, the game that you won because you kept driving the ball to the
yes,
and getting fouled and going to the free throw line. Hello,
you mixed it up, and they know what to do with you. Exactly. And so I don't know if it's because they're young or it's a coaching thing, but it was rough to watch. I'll be honest, it was a sad bar I was in.
It was super frustrating. I was just like, I'm just sitting here. They were up by 20 in the third, and I missed the first half of the game because I was out, and I come home and I'm like, oh, whoa. I'm like, oh, the game's on. Oh, wow, they're up by 20. I'm like, okay. And I looked at the clock and I was like, it was like 8 minutes to go in the third quarter. And I was like, bad omen.
Yeah.
Bad. I'm like, too much time.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, okay, but they were playing hard. Then they just kept chucking threes. And I was like, yeah, this ain't going to go good.
It was rough.
Then Wemby out
New Yorkers.
Threes. Ugh.
But the New Yorkers was happy because they showed Spike Lee. He was fit to be tied.
Over the moon.
He was like,
I can root for the Knicks, but like Dallas fans, their fans are just they're excessive.
Well, they say there's too much, and then there's New York fans.
Then there's New York fans. Yeah, they're just being New York fans. I mean, like, and it don't matter what the New York team is. It's the Yankees. It's the Mets. The Giants. I'm like, the Giants and the Jets suck, and they're still crazy. I'm like, what is wrong with you? Y'all won 2 whole games.
You do have to give them the fact that they're up 3-1. Yes, let's say the Spurs did give it away all 3 times because they were ahead. They were doing fine, and then they just gave it away.
Right.
But you do have to give them, and I'll be honest, I enjoy the enthusiasm and the creative way they talk crap to other people.
Oh, they be talking crazy.
I
Um,
don't like the fact that they went after those people who were wearing Spurs jerseys and assaulted them. That was
oh, I
way
didn't see
over the
that.
top. Yeah, I don't think it was an epidemic, but it was a small
Okay.
group of people,
Okay.
and
See,
they,
that's
stuff like that unfortunately happens. But
that's ridiculous. Although I ain't gonna lie, I did enjoy after game three when well, in game three when Trump was there, they booed
oh,
every time he came on the TV.
true.
And then when the motorcade was leaving, there was a barrage of "fu Trumps" that were going. It was hilarious. I was like,
No
no,
love,
y'all know he
man.
can't hear you, but they didn't care. They were just like, "F you, Trump. F you effed
He
up
saw the
my
video.
economy. You did this. You just F you, F you." I was like, it was very New York. It was
I
very
mean, hey, it's called community collaboration,
right.
First Amendment,
All
speaking the
that,
truth.
and I
I
quite
was all for that.
right.
But the reason why we're talking about this is because there's been this beef between old school, old heads, and
Yes.
these people are probably our age or older,
Yeah.
who have been very critical of this new group of folks who are probably in their early 20s. I think Wembanyama is 21, 22.
22. Yep.
And he was, when he won when they, I should say, won the championship for their conference, the Western Conference, Daniel was crying, tearing up, very emotional, and very much criticized that emotionalness, as
Yes.
being somehow being weak. And,
Hmm.
this goes with this whole trope that
Yeah.
somehow this generation of basketball players are weaker than the ones old
Hmm.
school. And what they're really talking about is that there used to be a lot more physicality, a lot more injuries, a lot more whatever back
Hmm.
in the day than they are currently, where you have LeBron, who is the master of the flop.
The flop.
Uh, a lot of flopping going on, and people just get hurt, and
Right.
they're so delicate all the time. But
Hmm.
I don't know what are your thoughts about this criticism of Wembanyama being too soft,
Yeah.
too
You
wet.
know, it. I think it's unfair. I also think it's really disturbing, and I think as a man, in particular as a practicing clinician, I think the messaging behind it is horrible. And it's ironic that it's coming from somebody like Kevin Garnett, because when Garnett won the championship with Boston, he cried like a baby, like a baby.
Real.
I'm like, bro, how you gonna talk about somebody being emotional? I mean, and I get it. You won a championship,
Right,
right?
right.
It's a great accomplishment for your career, but let us not shame other men,
Can I do a Garnett reenactment when he
right?
won?
Absolutely.
What's that about? You so can't be emotional in front of people. You got to
Exactly.
cover your face.
Exactly. I'm like, I remember that iconic one with Jordan with the trophy, champagne and tears running down his face. And,
Yeah,
and it's like,
that's
you
what you're
worked
supposed to
that's
do
what
when you
you're supposed
do
to do. I'm like,
something.
exactly. You worked your tail off to accomplish this. So I'm not mad at Garnett because he cried, at all. I'm like, emotional expression is good. But I
Yeah,
think when, if the underlying message of what they're saying is you have to suppress your emotions, whether it's in sport or in life. I think that's a dangerous message that we send to young men in that regard. And I think it
and
plays
women, right?
in women, right? I mean, because I think it's played into a whole bunch of stuff that we talked about before, the insanity of the manosphere and all these
Mm.
tropes about masculinity that I just don't they don't hold water. And and who are we to be the police of saying to somebody else, you can't feel what you feel, you
I
know?
mean, hey, I don't know about you, bro, but at my dissertation defense,
Hmm.
well, I don't know how they did yours, but they ask you to leave the room so they can
Yep.
talk, right?
Right, right,
And I mean, your one advocate is your advisor in the room,
right,
right? They
right,
negotiate things, whatever. I have no idea what they talked about.
right.
I come in and they say, you give me a little feedback, says, "Congratulations, Dr. Prince."
Mm,
I was so
right.
fucking emotional.
Exactly.
I mean, I'm laughing about it now, but at the time, all the emotions was up.
Oh,
I
absolutely. I
mean,
mean, because what's that? 3 to 5 years, if not longer, of consistent effort to
mm,
get to this place. I
mhm,
mean, sacrifice, all these
mhm,
things that you did to get to that. And it's
mhm,
like, and even though they're probably going to accept your dissertation, there's also relief.
mhm.
I mean, it's just this maelstrom of emotions that I think, boy, that feels quite appropriate.
Yes,
Like, yeah, you're like, God damn, I've
yeah,
been through fire for this
yes,
moment, you know,
yes,
and it's finally happened, and it's like, oh my God,
yeah,
and that's amazing, and yeah, I mean, I think all I felt was just like relief.
yeah.
Um, but it was also like I literally was leaving my dissertation defense and driving back to Chicago to get on a plane and fly to Hawaii for my postdoc. So
Oh.
there was, so it was kind of like, okay, thank you, thank God. I don't even know that I processed any emotions around it, to be honest, because I was like, I gotta, I gotta like a
Go.
4 hour drive to get back because I need to finish packing so I can get to Hawaii for my postdoc that starts in 2 days or 3 days. So it was kind of like, "Whoa," but
He's
I
like,
think in a
excuse me.
quiet moment,
You're like, are y'all done? Because I gotta go.
I gotta go. Right? I was like, they're like, okay, you got to make these changes. I was like, can we deal with that later? But you're gonna sign up on the paper, right? They're
Right,
like,
right.
okay, okay, I gotta go.
All right.
Yeah.
Got to go.
My
Got to
chair's
go.
like, he got. But even my chair was like, he gotta go. I was like,
Get out of here.
Dr. O'Donnell. I'm like, I gotta go. But there's, and if we take it out the realm of sport, you know, and I've said this before. I mean, I think in how we raise young men, we try to teach them not to feel bad about how they feel, and
Hmm.
all these things. And I just think, boy, it's harmful.
Yeah.
If Wimby cries, and let me, I'm gonna throw something at you. And I don't know if this has any truth. If you've watched him be interviewed
Hmm.
since that,
Hmm.
he's really different.
Oh, he is different. He built there.
He's
He's from
very
France.
he is French, but since all of this final stuff, he's been much shorter, much more reserved. And I don't know if that's just because it's the finals or if he heard some of that criticism and
Hmm.
maybe it's had an impact.
Hmm.
But I
I hope
wonder.
not.
Me
I hope
too,
not.
because I
I hope
love who that kid is. I mean, I love that he is so cerebral and
not. Right.
all
Right.
those things. I mean, just
Meditation.
yeah, meditate, all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, man, it'd be an awful shame if you heard that criticism and took it to such heart
I
that
hope not.
you're not you're not you're not you. You
I
know.
hope not, and I'm not convinced, but you're right. That is the common thing to happen in these situations to kind
Right.
of peel it back and
Hmm.
be like, I don't know about
Right.
that. But I
Mhm.
mean, we don't know who's won this championship yet, so shoot, we might have.
I'm good with 7 games. I mean, I'm good with 7 games.
Hey,
I
I'm
mean,
all. It has to now. At this point, it
right.
has to go to seven
Right.
games. So yeah, 7 games.
Seven
Spurs and
games.
seven, bro.
Spurs and seven.
Spurs and seven.
Spurs and
But
seven.
hey, let's move on to Graham Paltner because I think it's related to our conversation.
Hmm.
Because Graham Paltner is this unknown entity in Maine,
Right.
for those who don't know, and he's an oyster farmer,
Arsenal.
and he's kind of this Marlboro X kind of guy, white dude in his 40s. He has
Right.
this gruff voice. Sounds like he's been smoking cigarettes for a long time.
Ex-military. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, veteran,
Veteran.
and unfortunately, or almost fortunate or unfortunate, but he had a history of being quite some very negative behavior towards women.
Yep.
Some would say violent.
Hmm.
Particularly, he has some ex-girlfriends who have reported some things about him.
Right.
My sense is that because the people he was dating, who seemed, so at least one of them sound like they were Republican, and they're calling her operative.
Mm.
He may have had more conservative leanings at that time. He
Yeah, I've heard
drank
that.
a lot, apparently, and also said some things that give the inclination. At least he was wearing a tattoo that was representative of Nazis and white
Right.
supremacy. And see all behavior that he is not necessarily disavowed, but say, I was a different person then.
Yeah.
and even his wife has come out and said, "Yeah, I know about all that, and
Mhm.
that's not the person he is today."
Interesting.
And but there's a lot of distrust, and you hear this a lot of from women. And I'm not saying they shouldn't feel this way or anything, but it's an interesting situation to be in when you have a politician like this who's running for Senate,
Mhm.
which is a very important role, who acknowledges openly
Mhm.
problematic behavior. But
Mhm.
then there's the politics of it all. That how
Yeah.
much of is he following the same script where you deny things and you disparage the accusers of things?
Right.
Now let's be clear: he hasn't been accused of rape
Nope.
or assault in the sense
Mm,
of that way, but
mm.
a sexual assault at least. But he's had behavior that's been problematic.
Yeah.
And
Sounds like he
I
was
don't
pretty domineering.
domineering, yes,
Yeah.
and has said things about
Mhm.
women and people of
Yes.
color and others that's
Yes.
been straight up biased and all
Yep.
kinds of things.
Mhm.
I guess the challenge I'm having with this, bro, is that I don't know about you, but I got friends, I got uncles, family members, whoever, who have said some really atrocious things in the
Absolutely.
past.
Mhm.
I'm not talking about long, long time ago. I'm talking about not too long ago,
Like,
and they've found a way to for whatever they've gone on their journey,
right.
they've come and they come back and they're different people.
Mhm.
Not just what they say, but how they behave
Yeah.
towards women, towards people of
Right.
color, towards
Yeah.
immigrants. They've
Mhm.
just made a switch in their lives,
Yeah.
and 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 I'm trying to balance this whole idea of how
Mhm.
do you hold people accountable, but
Yes.
then when they demonstrate a willingness to change their behavior and their thinking about, then we no longer put them at a distance and say, okay, welcome to the fold.
Right.
And now you can represent our interests. I don't know. And I'm not a woman. And a lot of the
Yeah.
stuff they're talking about is how his behavior towards women. So
Yep.
I'm probably don't see some things here, but I'm feeling like there's an opportunity here for growth. I mean, this is what the whole reconciliation is all about.
Yeah.
But I don't know. What are your thoughts about it?
No, look, I agree with you. I mean, it tears me, and it was interesting because I was trying to put myself in the seat of somebody living in Maine, and I'm like, especially in the climate that exists right now, and I'm like, would you vote for Plattner, um, given what you're hearing? And I'll be honest, if I lived in Maine, I actually would do a whole lot more research
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because I'm like, okay, I've seen the headlines, I know what's coming out. It seems pretty damning, but I'd want to know more. So there's that piece, and I think but the question around forgiveness, or well, there's forgiveness, but there's also rehabilitation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, and I'll deal with the rehabilitation piece because I think that's what we were really talking through. I think we live in such a puritanical society that there is very little place in American culture for rehabilitation. Our penal system says it.
Yeah.
Uh, our religious system says it. Um, you know, our culture is just not particularly amenable to this idea of rehabilitation. So I think for him and anybody else, it's going to be very, very hard.
This
Um,
is not possible for some people in some people's minds.
exactly. No matter what you do, you're always the criminal. You're always the thing. Whatever the thing is the worst thing that you've ever done. Um, and that's really hard for me as a clinician in particular, because I'm like, but almost on a daily basis, I watch people change.
Yeah.
I watch people grow. I watch them
Yeah.
develop. And so the notion that one could not be rehabilitated does not resonate with my soul, um,
No.
or my experience.
Right.
Now if you say to me, and I've had friends say this, like, but there's some behavior, Lawrence, that's just so egregious it can never be forgiven. And I go back and forth. I ain't gonna lie. I'm like, should murderers ever get back out on the street? There's part of me that's like, no. Should rapists? I'm like, no. And then I'm like, but there are folks who've committed, murder in other countries who get out and live very productive lives. You
They
know,
use those experiences as
they use those
motivation for
experiences,
change.
right? They are to change. So I I want to believe that Plattner. Well, one, I believe Plattner can change. I think in some ways it's incumbent upon him to substantiate and demonstrate ways in which he has changed. But I also see a massive uphill climb in a culture like the United States that at its heart is pretty unforgiving, and pretty puritanical, black and white in its belief systems, around one's capacity to change.
Yeah, and the thing is, I feel like the good thing about this is it brings I think, a robust conversation about reconciliation, rehabilitation, forgiveness, right? Are those things possible?
Right.
What I don't want to do, and I heard this from a journalist on CNN not too long ago, who's like, "I'm not. First of all, I'm not gonna. I'm not hearing any kind of criticism from Trump supporters, MAGA supporters,
Mm-hmm.
who make allowances for someone who's a convicted
Right.
of sexual assault,
Mm-hmm.
of who is by his own admission has assaulted women
Mm-hmm.
sexually,
Mm-hmm.
who is made responsible financially for his behavior.
Yeah.
And so for someone like that to say, to be critical
Right.
of I'm like, first of all, bruh,
Yeah. Yeah. Shut up.
stop,
Talk.
just stop.
Right.
But from people who I think, who are, whether you're Republican or not, that's not the issue. Is and I'm saying this particularly for women who are just like, I don't know, I can trust someone like that. I'm like,
Right.
I think there's some
Fair.
legitimacy there.
That's fair.
And let's have the conversation and let's talk about, should he be the candidate or not?
Right.
Um, and then when people say, well, let's do a comparison between him and Susan Collins. I say, well, Susan Collins has voted for some of those atrocious legislation.
Exactly.
So who that supports many
Right.
of the harm that many of us are concerned about. So I'm like, for me, it's for me as a from someone who's not from Maine.
Right. Right.
Now, I did do a state report back in elementary school on Maine, so I know more than the average there.
You probably do. I'm like,
Chickadee bird is a state bird, and blueberries is one of the biggest productions out of Maine. So anyway,
still,
that's all I remember.
all these years later, right? Still there.
Hey, it was a good state report. I got an A on that sucker.
Hey, there you go. There you go.
But at the same, I guess I feel like there's room for this conversation. I'm glad people are talking about. I'm glad they're bringing it up because I think I don't know. I don't think there's room for purity tests in this stage of the politics that we're in today, where you have, you have this candidate who's just above board all the things, right? I think that's the kind of candidate that sometimes particularly Democrats, love to have.
Sure.
But in this situation with this candidate and this fight, I feel like, again, I'm part of the conversation, but I don't know. I'm not going to tell people who they should vote for. I'm just saying I'm glad that the conversation's people are having it, and maybe we'll come to some better understanding about these things versus kind of just stuck where we tend to be on these things.
The only other thing I'd add, to this conversation is I give him at least some level of credit. When he gave his acceptance speech the other night, he acknowledged this and talked about how he had changed. There's a part of it that felt a little defensive. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, of course, he's defending himself, right?
Right, he is. But I think he seemed to have a willingness, unlike many who have been caught in similar kinds of circumstances, to actually acknowledge, address. What he didn't say is, here's how I changed. Here's what led me to change, because I think that might change the conversation substantially.
Right. Yeah.
But at some level, I actually hope Susan Collins does attack him about it.
Mm-hmm.
And that if they have a debate, that they have the conversation and he's able to have a robust conversation about himself and how he changed. As I'm saying this will sound crazy. What just came to my mind? Malcolm. I mean, Malcolm was a stone thug.
Straight up.
Right? Gangster.
Straight up.
Gangster. Right?
Gangster.
Goes to jail. Meets somebody from the nation, changes his life around and devotes it to God, ministry. And no one can say Malcolm didn't change.
Right.
Yeah. Different kind of circumstance and situation. He was pimping out women.
He was doing all the things.
He was all the stuff, right? So I think there are examples that we can find, and probably aren't even that hard to find, of people who have changed for the better. And equally, there are examples of people who've changed for shit. Uh,
Hmm.
you know, like, oh, you used to be a decent human being, and now you're a piece of shit. Um, you know, so who we are today is dynamic.
Right.
But I think that's a conversation culturally that we are not prepared to have. Um,
And I think you're right about that. And this is my struggle. We can have someone who presents themselves in a certain way that
mhm,
is trustworthy and stuff, and then
yeah,
they go out and do things, or we find out the
right,
truth is that this person's is trash and
right.
says all kinds of really awful
Hmm.
things. And this person who's acknowledged that he is actually he has been those things, but I'm
Right.
no longer. And we put him in the same bucket
Yes.
because it's kind of this general distrust.
Yeah.
As they say, who I want to be alone with, a bear or a man, I'll take the bear any day. And
Mhm.
so there's that element that's part of this. But there's a part of me that wants to pull out the different men in this bucket that we're talking about and say, I hear you. This guy over here should not be trusted.
Mhm.
But the difference between this guy who presents one way and does something else versus this guy is that he's being transparent, at
Yeah.
least from what we can tell,
Well, we talk-
about where he's been,
Yep.
the struggles we've had.
Yep.
I tell people, hey, I come from a household that there was some strong misogyny,
Hmm.
homophobia, and a bunch of other stuff that was going
Yep.
on, and that I embraced. That's
Hmm.
not where I am today, but it's definitely something that was there.
Well said.
Um, and
Well
so
said.
it's like, how do you decipher between the two? Because I think
Right.
there are two different kinds of people here. And I'm not saying you should trust either one of them. I'm
Right.
saying the conversation
The
should look
conversation.
different with both of them.
That's right.
And our ability to distinguish between the two is important.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
I think sometimes we just throw them all in the bucket and say, well, men are
All
shit.
in
And I'm
sync.
like,
Right.
I hear you,
Right.
but
Right.
I think it's a little more sophisticated.
Yeah.
The bullshittery is a little more
Right.
refined and sophisticated.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, but you're also, yeah. But you're talking. I mean, it's interesting because you're talking about, in this case, as an electorate, the lack of sophistication by which we are addressing our politics. And I think that's a real part of it. But yeah, I think Plattner, I think from my perspective, if I were advising him, I'd be like, continue to be honest and transparent, but
Over and
do more
over.
to tell your story
Mhm.
um, as to how you change, because I think it humanizes you in a super powerful way
Yeah.
if it's legit.
Yeah.
You
Because there's plenty of stories out there of people who are just like him, who abandon their misogynist, homophobic,
Mhm.
racist rhetoric, right, or
Right,
beliefs, right?
right.
But they tell you why.
Yes.
There was a
Yeah.
relationship.
Yep.
There was a circumstance. There was
Right.
whatever. Something happened
Something happened.
over a period of time. They're
Yep.
like,
That's not who I want to be. That's not how I want to be.
prayer.
Right.
I
Prayer.
mean,
Right.
had a vision. I mean,
Right.
Malcolm X, he talks about
Right.
seeing Elijah Muhammad, and
Hmm.
that made him. I guess. I mean, if I saw Elijah Muhammad in my cell room, I might be. I might convert to Islam too. So,
Islam. Either that or I'd be like, holy shit, I'm crazy as fuck, right?
who is smoking
Like,
weed in here?
Ossifer, I'm having a delusion right up in here right now. These
I
are the
need medication.
I
I
have.
need time.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. I need
Well,
to.
hey. I want to fit in this other topic around Bill Pulte, and hit on it ever so slightly because I think it's kind of still connected to what we've been talking about.
Right. Yeah.
It's trust,
A different
right?
space. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
here's this guy, Bill Pulte, who's in the ear of the president. They're
Mhm.
good buddies, right? He's a billionaire making all this money. And let me be transparent with you. Pulte are the ones who built my house.
I was gonna say I was gonna be like, you got a Pulte home? All right.
I
All
have a
right.
Pulte, and I'm in it because they have a great reputation,
Right. Yeah.
build quality, blah blah blah.
Hmm.
And as far as homes are concerned, I might listen to Bill Pulte and talk
Right.
about the market and then how things are going and where things are. I'm not saying he's the only person I listen to. I listen to him because that's his area of expertise.
Right. Right.
But this man is now the interim,
Hmm.
let's be clear, interim
Intro.
director of national intelligence.
Hmm.
And the first question that came to me, and the reason I wanted to talk about it was because this seems to be nothing about expertise and everything to do with uh, loyalty. That this he's not going to question And it's disturbing to me that is such a, I don't know, it's just a thing. And I don't, I get it. Loyalty is
It's a
important.
hallmark of this particular um, government that, this loyalty above all. Competence has nothing to do with much of anything, including, frankly, Tulsi Gabbard. Wasn't,
Yeah.
I mean, she's hella better than this dude, but
Right. Right.
her,
She did have some background
she at least had some background. She was in the military, I mean,
in the
um,
military.
I mean, I don't know that she was any kind of national security expert.
No.
I mean, you think about cats like Henry Kissinger back in the day. I mean, you're like, oh my God, and
Without even agreeing with half the shit he did or
no,
said,
I'm
but
like,
you knew he knew what he was doing.
at least you thought the man knew something about what he was talking about. What's the sister? Not Condi Rice.
Oh, that's what I was going with.
Little short lady,
Oh, sister.
the ambassador. She was a white lady.
Oh! I know you're talking about kind of older. She's
Yeah,
passed away. She was
yeah.
under the Clinton administration.
Right.
I know
Yeah,
you're talking about.
I mean, brilliant. God forgive me for not remembering your name, ambassador. She was brilliant. I mean, I think she had a PhD in political science or some shit like that. I'm like, okay, you had spent 40 years working on, you know, national security issues. I mean, this is competence. Um, there is no one in the Trump administration who's in their job that I can think of where I go,
Yeah,
they're really on face value. I go, oh yeah, they're competent
they know their
to do
stuff,
that
right?
job. Right. I mean, Rubio might be the closest.
Oh yeah, he's legit. I mean,
You
he was
know,
senator before,
right? He
and
was at least he's been a senator. But I'm like the rest of
right,
these
right,
people. You're like,
right.
it's like whatever wackadoodle you can find, but they're loyal. They're
Yes.
loyal. You know.
And I'm not. What I mean, this is the thing. I'm not saying loyalty is not important. I mean, when I think about people who I work with, who I collaborate with, you want some respect, you want
Yeah.
some level of loyalty, right? But when it outshines
They're
everything,
right. Disproportionate.
it's disproportionate. Thank you. Yes,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's disturbing that
It
level.
is.
And well, I was gonna say real quickly is that it's disturbing because it's not just loyalty, but the bootlicking that they
Yes.
do when they're in committees
Exactly.
and their unwillingness to disagree with the
Right.
president
Right.
openly.
Or
I mean,
speak
not
for
that you're supposed to do
truth.
that. Yeah,
I mean, it's like, okay, we're going to lie our way through everything. And I think the thing that's really scary, especially about somebody like Pulte coming into um, this role, is he has been not only a lapdog, but he has utilized his office
mhm,
um, to harm people who the president decided he had bones to pick.
yeah.
You
Harm
know,
people and enrich themselves
exactly. So you're
and their
like,
friends.
do I really want a guy, if you will, it's not really the button, but do I really want a guy who foresees his job as that with his finger on the button? I'm like, no. I mean, this cat's gonna be out here on how many witch hunts can you be on, even if he's there for 3 months or 6 months? It's like,
Right.
out here destroying people's lives because at some point they disagreed, with Herr Trump. I'm like, it's crazy. So
Eric Trump.
by the way, did you know his family is German?
Oh, Trump?
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
I just read that recently.
and that his family,
We're draft
not
dodgers
just yeah,
in
draft
Germany
dodger,
and
but
Vietnam.
suspected they were part of the Nazi or white supremacist groups and
Yeah,
all this other stuff.
yeah,
So they brought that legacy with them from
mm-hmm,
across the pond, as they say.
mm-hmm.
So
Across the
yeah,
pond.
just across the pond. Well, hey, I think we're at the point where before we get to the side eye, I want us to do another card.
Okay.
And this one is our engagement card. And it says, when I feel lonely, I care for myself by blank. When I feel lonely, I care for myself by blank. You want to go first or I can go first?
I think you got to go first because I got to think about this one.
I think sometimes I have to first be like acknowledged I'm feeling lonely because sometimes I'm kind of like being busy and
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff. And I'm not always aware that that's how I'm feeling inside. And then when I become aware of it, the way that I try to take care of myself is, I'm hopefully doing things like exercising,
Hmm.
um, doing things I enjoy, because
Hmm.
loneliness can feel a tinge sometimes a little painful because sometimes
Yeah.
you're left with some thoughts or whatever you're not
Mhm.
really comfortable with. But loneliness doesn't have to be a negative thing, right? And I have to remind myself of that because loneliness for me growing up, unfortunately, was kind of painful
Mm.
at different times, especially when I was younger. And what I've learned to do is to take my time alone to curate it
Mhm.
and to be intentional about it. Because again, it doesn't have to be good or bad, but it's like, how am I feeling? What's
Mhm.
going on with me? I'm feeling good. Oh, I'm kind of having a hard day today, feeling some stress. And
Mhm.
so, in those moments where I do feel it, stress or something that's uncomfortable, instead of kind of doing things that cover it up, like with alcohol or whatever. I
Mhm.
just try to do things I enjoy, and maybe I might journal about it and what's going on with me, and kind of sit with it without feeling like I need to change it.
Right.
Because sometimes I do want to change it because it's just uncomfortable, and other times I'm like, yeah, I need to be like, what's going on?
Right.
So I think one is being aware of it,
Mhm.
sitting with it, and being present with it, and then asking myself for what I want if I need to do anything,
Mhm.
which oftentimes is not really anything to do. It's just be okay with it and then
Mhm.
let it pass.
Yep.
But
Mhm.
those are under most ideal
Yeah.
circumstances. How about yourself, man?
It's it used to be like when I was in college, especially undergrad, if I was feeling lonely, I love to get in my car and go drive. And I'd like, I'd turn on my music,
Mm,
choice, and I would just drive. I wasn't going nowhere. Didn't have nowhere I was trying to be, right? I go get on the expressway and just drive, I mean, like, and like that was really soothing, which
mm,
was interesting because it wasn't really connecting with anybody. It was just kind of
mm,
trying to get at peace with my own soul. Um, I think now, if I ever feel lonely, I usually will reach out, um, you know, to a friend and be like, I ain't gonna lie, I might go down the tree until I get somebody. Like, click, click, nope, click, nope, click. Hey, what's going
hey,
on?
where you been?
Where you been? What's been up? How you doing? And I don't necessarily even talk about myself. It's just, but there's something about the energy of the human interaction,
Mm,
now that I find particularly soothing.
mm,
Um, you know, and oftentimes, I don't know about you, but a lot of times if I do feel lonely, it's not even because I haven't seen people in a while. I might have just seen people like, a hot minute ago, but something's like kind of, it's a feeling of disconnection in some respects, and I think that I think for where I am in life now, that's where I'm more like, this is this is a disconnection thing. Um,
mm,
and it doesn't, I don't know about you, but it doesn't necessarily require a lot. It's not like I need 3 hours of somebody's time.
mm.
It literally might be 5 minutes.
Right.
It's like, okay, I'm good. I'm replenished.
Yeah,
I'm
I'm
good
good.
to go.
I was about to tell you a story, but I'm gonna leave that one alone. I'll be honest. This is a good conversation for us to have because one of the things I've been focusing on in my work is the epidemic of loneliness, particularly amongst men,
Mm,
and our inability oftentimes to manage the loneliness. When I say it's epidemic, it's something that's out there. It's kind of like chain smoking or drinking
mm,
too much. People are experiencing it, have no idea of how to deal with it or manage it.
mhm.
And of course, it got exacerbated by the pandemic, and then later on, people's inability to have conversations in normal
Yeah.
ways. And so, loneliness, isolation, these are big things. You hear, particularly from men who haven't maintained or have a significant romantic relationship,
Mhm.
or even from men who have like they say all the time when you see a breakup, the woman she'll be her friends and hanging
Mhm.
out, and her life gets better somehow or another.
Right.
Man, sometimes the only friends they had were through their partner,
Partner. Yep.
and
Exactly.
so now they're out really by themselves
Hmm.
and struggling.
Yep.
So, in general, I think loneliness is a problem, but particularly amongst men, you're seeing it to be a challenge, particularly even for our young generation
Yep.
now. I think it's 20 to 30% of young people express feeling alone or isolated more times than not.
Mm,
So it's a problem. It's a
yeah,
problem.
for sure.
Well, hey, let's get on to our last topic, and this is a side eye.
Hmm.
This is about the CBS News and how they treated our boy Scott Pelley, who I'll be honest, I was never like
He ain't
he
your
wasn't
favorite.
the guy. He wasn't
Right.
the guy. I mean,
Right.
60 Minutes I like, and I'm not
Right.
saying he's not a good journalist and all that stuff, but he's a little dry for my taste, a little
Okay.
flavor. But he was a senior leadership
Yeah.
over there for 60 Minutes,
Mhm.
been there for 36 years, I think is what I remember hearing.
Something crazy.
And he goes to a meeting and says that Barry Weiss, who is the new head of CBS News, who was put in her position not because of her experience, because of her willingness to align with the kind of political winds that are out there. At least that's the allegation.
Yeah.
And he basically says you've already fired two of our other lead people, correspondents, and then some producers.
Yep.
Supposedly because they did something that wasn't aligned with what you're saying, but that sounds like bull.
Yeah.
And now you're murdering, which he acknowledges. Scott Pelley, he acknowledges that hyperbolic is the
right.
word.
Yeah.
But you're murdering CBS News,
yeah.
or murdering 60 Minutes or something like that. And then I don't know if 2-3 days went by, and then his ass was on. He was out. Now he's on New York Times doing interviews, talking about, well, yes, I did say all that.
Yeah, all right. He owned it. He's like, yep. He's like, I went out.
And it's just, I do feel like it's an assault on freedom of press, freedom of speech, because it seems to me that because apparently the producers who were involved with 60 Minutes, they've had challenges. There's a whole issue of online presence, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. But apparently they've had the best numbers they've had in a very long time and doing quite well, doing better than anyone else.
Right.
And the fact that it's like, okay, we're doing really, really well, but you're still going to fire us?
Yeah. Right. So it's not, so it makes a lot of the conversations feel really disingenuous because it's like, if it's about ratings, well, there's not really a conversation to be had, so then it gets you squarely back into this is political and about a bent for the program. And the weird part for me, 60 Minutes, NPR, I think for most of its history, programmatically are pretty neutral.
Yeah. They tell the news.
They tell the news.
They share information from all sides.
Right. And if I look at things like BBC and some other things that I'll read to kind of get a non sort of biased American view of something, they tell stories seemingly closest to just kind of how an outsider looking in would be. And so all you can do is this feels very political. And to be honest, they will probably lose me as a viewer. And I'm like you. I didn't love Karen Alfonsi or Sharon Alfonsi. I'm like, she was okay. Didn't love Scott Pelley. He was fine. Anderson Cooper, he was doing puff pieces, so it was like, whatever. I don't necessarily need these, whoever was the next great composer or whatever. I was like, I don't care. Because I'm like, I don't know that I trust that what I'm going to hear in future will be unbiased.
Well, tell the full story.
Tell me the full story. Yeah. I'm like, well, how's this story being skewed? I guess Leslie Stahl is still on there, and a couple.
Yeah, the three others, the brother whose name escapes me.
Yeah, me too.
Leslie Stahl, and there's one other who supposedly are going to stay. Now people are just waiting for that to change.
But how much interference are they going to be putting in, into the stories, much like Bezos did at the Washington Post? Trying to push a certain kind of narrative versus allowing these folks to do their job. So I think the side eye is completely appropriate because there's more questions than answers.
Right. Because the concern isn't about Barry Weiss being in the room on every decision about everything. It's when it's politically advantageous for them to ignore or to push an agenda
Yes.
because it serves the needs of a political wing of our
Exactly.
country
Exactly.
instead of just telling the story.
Instead of just story.
And,
Right.
and like and because they said when Paramount bought CBS and all the other things, they came in and said, "Hey, it's great to see you. We're looking forward to things." They were having money problems, and Paramount solved all the problems. So they were apparently very excited about this.
Yeah.
But when someone comes in and tells you, "Find more information about X, Y, Z," there is no information.
Right.
The president says there is, but there isn't.
But there is
There is no more to be
Right.
shared.
Right.
But
You didn't do
somehow,
enough to get their side of the story. It's like,
and so the only way you can do that is to lie or to just eliminate information.
exactly. And then
Because if you think of a journalist as an anthropologist, they're there just to collect information and then
That's
share
right.
the
That's right.
information.
Like we talk to people across the board. This is what we learned.
Mhm.
So it's, so I think as a populace, whether you watch 60 Minutes or not, there's a loss that I think we're going to experience as a result of them.
It is. The good thing I heard from Scott Pelley's interview, I watched the whole thing just because I wanted to be informed.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, "Don't worry about me. I'm good." And if anything,
He
he felt like he was the only person who could push back and not have to worry about it, because other people, it was like automatic, you losing your job. Me, he's like, I can say what I need to say and I'm good. I go home, I'm good.
Exactly.
I mean, he's like 60 something years old.
Yeah,
67.
Exactly.
I'm assuming he made a lot of bank. And you know what? He's
going
to work somewhere.
Yeah, right.
He's going to work somewhere.
And he's going to work
CNN.
Right. Exactly.
PBS News.
He's going to have his own show doing something somewhere.
Yeah. Oh, do like Don Lemon.
Program. Right, exactly.
Get him some producers and go on TV and do something online.
Exactly.
So he is good.
He's going to be fan.
Well, hey, I got one more card for you, and then we can wrap things up here, bro.
All right, bro.
Let me see here. I'm trying to look for one particularly. Oh, here we go. Choose a player, and for us, it's just you and me. It says choose a player and ask a few follow-up questions from their play. And I want to know, what'd you do in Hawaii, bro?
Oh, I was doing my postdoc. So my postdoc's in rehabilitation psych. So stroke, traumatic brain injury, spinal cord injury. So it's a much deeper and wider story. I went to Hawaii because my girlfriend at the time wanted to do her internship. She's also a psychologist in Hawaii. She was very interested in sort of culture and wanted to do it at the University of Hawaii. And so, as a part of the relationship, I was like, okay, I need to do a postdoc. And for us to be together, I was like, I'm going to go to Hawaii. The irony is we broke up like 2 months before.
Really?
Yeah. We're actually great friends. I mean, like we're great friends. It was a little tense during that period of time, but we broke up. So it was, So I was like, and I wanted to do my postdoc in Miami at a rehab hospital there that was world renowned. And so I was like, what? I'm like, I'm stuck in Hawaii. I'm like, I'm not with this woman. But it turned out great. I'm like, one of my closest friends today was one of my mentors on the program. My ex and I are actually really good friends. I mean, I know kids. And living in Hawaii exposed me to a culture that I would have never been exposed to. And I read some of the great novels of the year because I was riding the bus every day for an hour. So I'm like, me and Anna Karenina and Uncle Tom's Cabin and you name it, I think I finished reading Malcolm X that year, all kinds of stuff. So I mean, I was like, it was great in many, many, many ways. So
if I read your autobiography on that section of Hawaii, I'd be like, well, the best of times and the worst of times.
The best of it was right. It's like I ain't had no car. We went to Pearl Harbor on Pearl Harbor Day. I mean, it was like a lot of cool stuff. So.
Cool. Your turn, bro. Ask a follow-up question from our play.
I wanted to, we were talking about plates and perspectives, and I was wondering, for you, what was the thing, like what was most energizing for you about doing that first one Like, what did you personally get out of it?
Personally, kind of like we were talking about earlier, when you put a lot of time and energy or something, so you have the card deck itself, which has been in development or was developed, but just to see it with a large group of people, some of which were friends, I think the part that really got me going is, it's one thing for you to talk about something. Like I can talk about, you know, my days playing sports. I was playing tennis, or I can tell you a story about any number of things, right? But when you're actually in the room experiencing it with someone, and they're actually in the room having the conversations using the card deck, they see how the food and the camaraderie that we had and how that led to it's one thing to talk about and describe it. It's another thing to experience it and to see that and to get affirmation for the very thing I've been saying. Like, I'm telling you, this works. This is. I mean, there's a lot of psychology and research behind it, and so I know intellectually.
Right. But to
see, and I've seen this in other situations. I've done other plates and perspectives, but to see a good number of people who are trying to get their support and encouragement on, for them to walk out the room and be like, "Yo, that was dope." Literally,
that's cool. That's cool.
That's what's really makes a difference for me.
I love it.
Yeah, appreciate you saying that. Well, hey man, Riffin' While Black, here we are. I'm glad we got to meet today, and with no internet issues. And we got through all our topics, so we'll be back next week for our next episode of our podcast here, Riffin' While Black. But it's good seeing you, my brother. I'll see you next week, and we'll talk again soon. All right.
Peace.
All right, bud.